Our Senate Rules Committee. We're going to start with two other appointments, just as controversial as the last. You know, we have Ms. And I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly, Aida or Aida? Aida Molina for the State Board of Education, as well as Ms. Trish Williams. Please come forward. To Ms. Molina as well as Ms. Williams. If there's anyone you want to introduce, please do so. And after that, why don't you proceed with your statement?
Thank you. My husband, Eli Molina, is here.
Who would that be? Okay, welcome.
And my husband, Stan Williams, is here.
Welcome. Welcome to both. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman De Leon and members. It is an honor to appear before you today in consideration of my reappointment as the member of the State Board of Education. I also want to take this opportunity and thank the Governor for his trust in my service to the school children of California. I was born in the U.S. to immigrant parents, and I was an English learner and entered school not knowing English. In my time there, for the purpose of learning to speak English, I took my time to learn the language at the expense of learning to read and write. As a result, I know that today, unfortunately, many of our English learners today have encountered the same issues that I have. And our data continues to show that some of our children are not making it. As a result, I became a bilingual teacher. I was dedicated to ensure that all children would learn to read and write in English, regardless of their primary language. I have spent much of my 23 years in helping teachers and administrators work with the underserved children, particularly our English learners. I am steadfast and in providing the best professional learning and resources for teachers and administrators so that we can step into the lives of children they teach every day. As a re-elected board member, I will continue to be committed to ensuring that we write clear policies that support high standards, strong curriculum, and assessments and accountability. I am also committed to adopting the regulations to implement programs created by the legislature that will change the outcomes for our low income, our English learners, and our foster students. I believe in the students of California, I believe in the teachers, and I believe in the parents. I am humbled to represent them as a board member, and I am committed to do what we need to do to support our children. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes. So you know, my name is Trish Williams, and I want to thank the Governor for nominating me for a second term, and I want to thank the Senate Rules Committee for considering my reconfirmation today. Although some of your staff have left, I want to thank your staff for their courtesy during the staff interview. I really appreciated it. Before I came onto the State Board, I was the Executive Director of EdSource, and in that role, I spent 2 decades studying and analyzing California's K-12 public policies and student outcomes. But I also bring to the State Board a passion for the importance of public education. I am the first and only member of my birth family to attend and graduate from college. I went on to get a 2-year master's degree, but I was part of a history or a legacy of education pioneers because my mom was the first in her family to get a high school diploma. My youngest son is now the first in our family to become a medical doctor. I know from personal experience the profound difference that having an education has made for the options and the opportunities I've had in my life and the impact it's had on our family's trajectory. If I am confirmed, one of my priorities is to work well with the entire board to finish the state and local accountability system for our schools, as well as all the other policy work that we have. I am also committed to the next generation science standards. Bringing science back as a core discipline in California's K-8 schools has been a major focus for me in my first term, and it will remain so if I have a second term. Finally, a more recent interest of mine is the need in California to expand and to diversify student access in K-12 to computer science education. I see this need as both a California workforce priority and a student equity issue. I appreciate your consideration today of my reconfirmation, and I welcome the opportunity to answer any questions.
Thank you. And maybe we'll begin our questions with Senator Leyva. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you for waiting patiently. I know it's been a long day.
And the same to you.
I did. Oh, we're fine. It's our job. I first have to start by saying you both are two of the most impressive women I have had the pleasure of meeting. As I told you when we met, I feel better about education in California already. The only question I have really is if you could elaborate a little bit on your plans for career technical education moving forward.
I'll start. Career technical education in general has not been a priority for me in the past. I didn't know that much about it and have been focused more on access to four-year college prep, A through G. But as I became more passionate about next generation science standards and about computer science education, I have realized how important having multiple pathways through career tech, as long as they are chosen by students and with informed decisions, not tracked, and they have some guidance counseling on it, how important that is to students.
Thank you. It is a challenge. It's a new shift for us. We understand that in the practitioner's world, we need to sit back and think about how we're going to actually form what would these classes look like. We are committed to do that work. We know it is absolutely necessary. As we discussed when we met with you, we recognize that not all children should be going in one single track. We don't have all the answers right now. We recognize it's going to take time for us to sit down and think about what will those courses look like? How will we plan carefully to ensure that we do provide opportunities for children to make some decisions aside from the track of going to college? Considering with our LCAP and able to write the plans, it is important for us to think about what would that look like, particularly children in middle school and high school. How would we begin to have those conversations? And I know we're having them, ensuring that we provide not just the opportunity of selecting a certain career path, but how they will use technology to support them in this area.
Terrific. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leyva. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you. I appreciate the time we spent and the passion that you bring to your appointments. Really appreciated our conversation on local control funding formula. And I wish you luck in your next years of service. And Mr. Pro Tem, I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, Superintendent, somewhere in Kern County. I'm not sure what school district, but I know in Kern County.
Well, I'm very proud of both of these women. I've watched their careers for quite a number of years, and I'm very, very proud of them. They've made a tremendous change and a big difference. They're both change agents. If we had you in a different department that we needed earlier today, you would have already fixed it. And I know Aida's record probably a little better than Trish's, although I know Trish's quite well. And I can assure you that she has a wonderful, skilled approach to finding the right question so that she solves the problems, and her knowledge of bilingual programs as well as second language children, as well as her own personal experience growing up in her husband's family's experience, has made them outspoken advocates in our district. And they've made a lot of change. So I don't have very many questions other than to say, when I looked all over the state to find a leader that could help us move our test scores in the bilingual area, I found her in Sacramento, and she didn't want to come. And guess why, I guess, to Bakersfield. And she came, and I told her, you need to do this because you'll be an assistant superintendent. And now she is an assistant superintendent. And I'm hoping someday she sits here in this Senate seat. We have a lot of differences between us, but we've got more similarities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. I have a question for Ms. Aida Molina. Obviously, you're a district administrator. Local control funding, LCFF, with the increased funding, resources to focus on low-income students, English language learners, foster care youth. With the increased student services with a focus on improved outcomes, what do these improved outcomes look like for you? for foster youth, English language learners, low-income students?
The improved outcomes has to be that children will be successful and the metrics that we set. So making sure that the actions, we want children to be able to read, to write, to be able to be successful with the Common Core standards, the next generation science standards, with social studies standards. How we set that action in motion is dependent on the need of each of the districts. Each district will have to address their needs based on where their children are. I'll use a personal experience. With Bakersfield City, we have serve over 30,000 children, the largest K district. The first thing that we did is to determine where the gaps were, and as you call it, not a gap, but an opportunity. How do we determine what the needs are? How we write the actions in order to address the needs to close that gap? And what measures will we use to ensure that the children are making it? We were very clear that we needed to be able to show our parents that children, in the example of English learners, that they would be redesignated and that they would be able to pass the local assessments that we put in place. So we've put systems in place to be able to ensure that we can articulate to our parents and our public that both foster children, English learners, and children of poverty are meeting the metrics or the targets that we have set in front of us or in front of them.
With the Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP, what type of metrics do you both recommend to ensure that the infusion of dollars, which the legislative body here were in support of and voted on in agreement with the governor to look for a paradigm shift with regards to student outcomes, in particular low-income students? What type of metrics are we looking at with regards to the accountability plan to know that we are in fact having better positive, academic outcomes, or if we're not, but yet we're still investing those dollars?
As I'm sure you probably know, we haven't finalized the discussions on what kind of metrics would go with the 8 state priorities. We started with a preliminary list that were pretty obvious, state summative test scores on the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Within the next couple of years, state summative test on next generation science standards. Whether or not those go into a composite index or don't go into one, and we haven't yet decided how that will be handled. But what we are committed to is for those metrics, as well as for the others we determine, whether that's graduation, whether that's four-year college rate, whether that's CTE pathways, whether that's A through G participation rate, whether it's A through P, AP, and 3 or higher rate, all of the usual suspects, as well as we're hoping to add additional suggested metrics into it that are based on newer research about predictive value of reading by 3rd grade or other kinds of metrics that are highly correlated with future success in college going. So all of those are on the table, but there is a clear commitment by the board, to collect student outcome data and have the districts, LEAs, collect it on all student subgroups and to look at improvements over time for all student subgroups. So it should be that for the student subgroups in California that are now the target of LCFF, the focus of them, those 3, they should be building into their LCAPs, every district, every LEA, how they intend to improve services to them for the purpose of improving outcomes.
So an example of that, multiple measures, is absolutely critical. How one solid method is not going to tell us whether children are meeting their targets. So allowing districts to create their local measures, such as a benchmark assessment, such as a reading assessment, such as math, and to be able to clearly look at these run-ups, is what we're calling them, and be able to determine whether children are on track. The SBAC, or our assessment that we just finished taking all our children, we have created a baseline. That baseline is letting us, gives us an idea of where children are as it relates to the Common Core standards, both in math and in English language arts. it's a way for us to be able to go back to our districts and compare that data with our local measures and determine if we have alignment. So we have set different marks at every point in our LCAP plans. We have identified those metrics, whether it's a local benchmark, whether it's the state assessment, and even to the classroom assessment. What we must ensure is that whatever metrics we are using, that it's really telling us the story that we are actually closing the gap for our English learners, our foster youth, and our children of poverty.
It's absolutely critical. Obviously, the legislature, I believe, at least fiscally, budget-wise, played a vital role in terms of agreeing to move forward with legislation to completely change the funding formula. Obviously, we give the governor a tremendous amount of credit for his leadership, for his vision, and moving what is probably the most groundbreaking fiscal formula transition in quite some time in the country, with a weighted focus on English language learners, poor children, foster care, youth. That's why it's critical, your roles that you play, because we're talking about the economic security, currently the 8th largest economy in the world, given the projections in the changing demographics in our school population, K through 12, throughout the state of California. So the metrics that you develop, and it's in consultation with the LEAs, are absolutely critical to actually know, are we hitting the mark, are we not hitting the mark, and where we need to make the adjustments that are necessary, or do we continuously fund with the same outcomes that we have been receiving with the true philosophy that we agree with, is that every child is intelligent. They have to be given the same opportunities, and we know those opportunities are not equitable or equal in the state, or for that matter in the country, so for a whole variety of factors. So with that, I want to thank you very much. If there's any questions or commentaries from the members, I'm seeing none. Those in support of the nominations that are before us today, Ms. Trish Williams, as well as Ms. Aida Molina, please comment up. Those in support. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Terry Burns on behalf of the California School Boards Association, enthusiastically supporting both candidates. As you pointed out, they have a broad wealth of experience that they share generously at the board meetings, and we do appreciate that. I would note to you their tirelessness in making themselves accessible, participating in stakeholder meetings and committee meetings and working groups and all of those things, which is really a pleasure to have such access to the board members in that regard. And I want to thank them both for being quick to point out in discussion the impacts on the various subgroups, not just a generic conversation, but let's talk about those things. And finally, I would note our appreciation for their very thoughtful approach to a holistic accountability system, not a piece here and a piece there, creating reports that don't always collect the same kind of data, but differently. There's been a lot of emphasis on a holistic approach that is comprehensive and good for kids, which is their first priority for both of these women, is what's the right thing for kids. So thank you, Eden.
Thank you much. Next witness in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Moira Top on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association. We wholeheartedly support both candidates before you today. They have a profound and deep understanding of the needs and challenges faced in teaching, educating all of California's students. I'll echo the comments about accessibility. From day one, they have had an open door policy. They listen to everyone's concerns, and we very much appreciate it. We look forward to their nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Good afternoon. Sarah Bachas with the Association of California School Administrators, in strong support of both board members who've been just phenomenal at reaching out, listening to our concerns, but also pushing back and making sure that we are generally being held accountable, that we're having these really very important conversations as we're talking about overhauling our entire educational accountability system, really pushing the limits and making us think outside the box, and we truly appreciate their presence and their genuine commitment to education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness in support.
Good afternoon. Monique Ramos on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson in support of both candidates. The superintendent has worked closely on many policies with both candidates, but also wants to highlight how important it has been in their roles to improve the collaboration between the department and the State Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, witness in support.
Good afternoon. I'm Rick Pomeroy, past president of the California Science Teachers Association, a nonprofit membership organization supporting California science educators, grades K through university. I'm speaking on behalf of CSTA. As a member of the state, and I'm supposed to say, please, we would like to ask you for the reconfirmation of Trish Williams. As a member of the State Board of Education, Trish Williams served as one of the 2 liaisons to the Next Generation Science Standards and fully embraced the role. She attended and participated in all key meetings from the review stage through the adoption stage and now implementation stage. She has represented the state well and the state board as well, providing clarification and direction throughout the process. Her work to realize the possibility of the K-8 early childhood or early implementation initiative, which is providing California with a head start on implementation, as well as research base for best practice, has made that initiative possible. For her work on the State Board of Education, CSTA is honoring Mrs. Williams with our first ever Advocacy Award, which has been granted to her for her demonstrated commitment to quality science education in California and for going beyond expected involvement at all times. The award is intended to recognize her outstanding advocacy and championing of quality science education. Finally, there's still much to be done. Before we can fully implement NGSS and have students leaving college, leaving K-12, being college and career ready in science. I know that if we reconfirm Mrs. Williams stands ready to help the state navigate the difficult decisions ahead about funding, assessment, and more. She is a true leader in science education, and we respectfully request her reconfirmation.
Thank you very much. Last witness in support.
Good afternoon. Michael Hulsizer here today on behalf of Dr. Christine Frazier, the County Superintendent of Kern County. Dr. Frazier asked me to communicate that she feels very strongly that the governor needs to be commended for his nomination of each of these 2 ladies. Their professional careers long before the LCFF demonstrate a real commitment to the principle of equity, the notion that not all students start at the same place, and that all students, while they deserve an equal opportunity, many students need additional resources through education. And both of these board members have exemplified that professionally, and their work on the board has really been a strong illustration of that. So we urge you to confirm them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other folks in support? Any other folks in support? Seeing none, those in opposition? Those in opposition? Okay. Any folks who just don't care? Any folks? There's no one here. It's just been a long day. It's been a very, very long day. Okay. Seeing none, I want to thank you very much for your patience, incredible patience. Obviously, we had a very long hearing previous to your appointments today. So again, once again, to your family, to your husbands, thank you very much for your patience. Can I get a motion? We have a motion made by former superintendent. I think it would be appropriate, Kern County. With that, we have a motion made by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella, Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell. Aye. Mitchell, aye. Fuller. Aye. Fuller, aye. DeLeon.
Aye.
DeLeon, aye.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, your nominations pass. You will be heard in the full Senate sometime in the near future, very soon. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, we're going to move with file items number 2 through 5. Before executive session, can I get a motion of file item 2 through 5? We have a motion that has been made by Ms. Leyva. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella, Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell. Aye. Mitchell, aye. Fuller. Aye. Fuller, aye. DeLeon.
Aye.
DeLeon, aye.
All right. File items number 2 through 4 pass on a 4-0 vote. With that, I'm sorry, 5-0 vote. Strike that.
No. 2 through 5, 4-0.
File items number 2 through 5 pass on a 4-0 vote. With that, we're going to move into executive session. So.